In the game location, there was some sort of battle going on in a large castle. The warrior girl was massacring the enemies. They were lying on the castle floor. After the battle, the warrior girl started looking for the Demon King. The girl wondered if the Demon King was so powerful. Even the 7 wise men of the world can't defeat him. A guy dressed as a ruler showed up. He accused the girl of invading his castle and immediately attacked her. The guy told Irene's Hammerlight girl that he could let him go if she belonged to him. Irene told the guy she'd rather sacrifice herself. She added that he could have her body if he didn't defile her soul. The protagonist ended up taking a very close look at the girl. The girl, Irene, had the status of 5 stars. She was one of the 7 wise men of the world. She was armed with a hammer. The guy told the girl that for her power they would change the class to Paladin and raise Divine Light to max level. The guy approached the girl and said that Duke Gaoji would finally surrender to him. At the same moment, the protagonist felt as if he were on the bed with Irene. The guy got a message that he had gotten the main card hammer of Light and Irene. Irene said, pretending that the Demon Lord was very strong. The guy cheerfully replied to the girl that his magic power was depleted. The girl told the guy romantically that she could work some more. At the same moment, the protagonist clicked his mouse and switched the game. The guy thought he was the first person in a game called Love in 10,000 Worlds to collect 100 5-star characters. The game of Love of 10,000 Worlds is a very popular game in recent years. The protagonist thought that this game was the best opening for him as an expert in love games. The guy got a message from the system that there was a special gift for him. The protagonist wondered why the screen went black and what was the special gift. Suddenly there was a swirl on the monitor as if a portal entrance had opened. Immediately the vortex pulled the guy inside with all its might. The protagonist ended up getting sucked completely inward into the computer monitor. The chair next to the desk was empty. The monitor began to fade. The protagonist was whisked off in some unknown direction through some space. The guy was traveling in flight in a dimension that was incomprehensible and unknown to him. Suddenly, the protagonist noticed that his journey was beginning to come to an end. The guy ended up flying into some sort of virtual reality-like place. The guy thought he was in a place like where the characters in the game are created. A girl with white hair appeared. She called the guy the Chosen One and greeted him. The girl called herself the Fairy of 10,000 Worlds. She said she would answer the guy's questions. The protagonist realized that he was in the game. The main character touched the fairy and asked her what he needed to do to return to his world. The fairy told the guy to play as usual. The guy felt like he was in a manga. He asked the fairy what the catch was. The fairy said that the main character is as lively as the other characters. She added that the guy pissed off a lot of people. The main character said he was getting bored and asked the fairy what he should do now. The fairy said the guy had pissed off 100 girls with his actions. Now he has to make them fall in love with him. The guy said it would be easy for him. The fairy told the protagonist that after the restart his account was deleted, he would have to start from scratch. The main character threatened to sue the fairy. The fairy replied that according to the license agreement, the guy's account belongs to the company. The main character said he was given some kind of power so he wouldn't die. The fairy told that the guy will receive from the creator 5 characteristics are talent, variability, strength, charisma, and intelligence. Talent will give you the ability to gain more abilities to become the strongest. With the variation, the guy can use shadow powers to become invisible. Through physical strength, a guy gets to pump up his body. With intelligence, we'll be able to master all kinds of spells. The protagonist asked with interest and impatience, what is the use of charisma? The fairy said that charisma would make you beautiful. The main character replied sadly that becoming beautiful was a good joke. The guy thought that if he was a demon mage, he should choose intelligence. Suddenly something happened and the protagonist's finger slipped down the list. Then the guy ended up choosing to be a charisma in the system. The protagonist was very surprised and couldn't understand why it happened. The guy yelled for the system to stop. He added that he wanted to choose another. The fairy said that the choice was final and could not be changed. She advised that the boy should use the system wisely. Suddenly, the fairy came close to the guy. She wanted to say something important. The fairy whispered to the boy very quietly in his ear that the game was starting. Suddenly, the protagonist noticed space starting to collapse right below him. The protagonist wondered how come it started on its own. The action has moved to the world of Ling Min to the eastern city of Yunzhou. A girl in town went into a jewelry store and found what she needed. The girl's name was Yun Xuan, and she asked the seller how much it cost. The salesman told the girl that by her appearance you can tell she's a disciple of Yun Yin Men. Yun Yin Men protects the peace of the city. The seller said he could give the girl the item for free. Yun replied that she was embarrassed. The Yun girl wanted to tell the salesman that he didn't have to give her anything for free. At that time there was a loud shout from the sky. Some man fell from the sky into the street. A man fell from a great height and smashed a hole in the ceiling. The protagonist was lying on a pile of rubble. He couldn't understand why there was no normal way to cross over. Turning around, the guy saw a large number of naked girls. He was in a women's bathhouse. The guy got really scared and embarrassed. He told the girls it wasn't what they thought it was. He added that he just wanted to leave. Girls told the guy that he was handsome and they wanted to meet him. The main character was scared. The girls started yelling at the guy to get naked so they could look at him. The main character broke out of the building and ran down the street. He was very confused and scared. The guy couldn't figure out what was wrong with these girls. The protagonist was met by soldiers. They shouted that they would catch him for daring to break into a woman's bathhouse in broad daylight. The guy realized that if he got caught, he was going away for a very long time. The warrior yells that the protagonist is running away and they need to bring him to justice. The guy ran down the street yelling in his defense that it was just a misunderstanding. One of the girls said she didn't think they had perverts. The other girl said that the pervert was so beautiful. The protagonist was able to hide well among the buildings in the big city. The warriors were looking for the guy on the street. They thought he must be around here somewhere. The guy was very scared. He stood by the wall and thought it must be safe for him here. He didn't understand how this could happen. The system told the guy that he should get a cloud shadow fairy named Yun Shuihan. As a reward, the guy will get 1,000 points. The main character thought that in the game, Yun Shuai is a disciple of Yun Yinmen of the Shuyang sect. The guy looked at the game interface. In addition to the extra storage, there were also attributes. The protagonist noticed that all of his attribute points were given to charisma. The guy noticed he had a new one called the Evil Smile Defense. A wicked smile of defense could increase the target's favor towards himself. The boy couldn't understand how he could use such a skill. Suddenly, one of the warriors shouted to the others that he had found the protagonist. The guy got scared. The main character decided to try a skill. He thought that the one who does not take risks is not really living. The guy looked from around the corner at the warriors, and a wicked grin appeared on his face. The warrior was scared. He yelled that the guy was really a pervert because of his smile. The guy thought to himself fearfully that he didn't smile much in life. He kept repeating to himself that he was normal. At this time, the main character's skill reactivation began. The guy had his evil smile back on his face. She had to help him. The warrior changed dramatically. He felt as if he had fallen in love with a man. The soldier completely disconnected from reality and felt like he was in love at first sight. At the same time, the protagonist hit the warrior in the face with a brick with all his might. The guy told the warrior he didn't love him and apologized for dashing his hopes. The city's manhunt for the assault on the officer went up afterward. The protagonist resented the fact that a search level was added to the settings. Then the soldiers noticed the guy and yelled that he was attacking the officer and the locals. The warriors got ready to attack the guy. The archers wanted to shoot him. The protagonist was hit by a swarm of very dangerous arrows. The arrows ended up hitting the guy. He couldn't dodge them in time. The protagonist realized he couldn't escape because his attribute points had turned to charisma. The warrior shouted to the rest of the soldiers to hurry up and catch up with the guy. The guy decided to run into the building. He realized he couldn't get caught there. The warrior shouted to the soldiers to grab everyone. Immediately, the protagonist decided to hide in the building. He passed the entrance. A girl named Liu Ruhong inside told them to do a good job today and shake the money out of the men. The protagonist was running, and out of fear, he could see absolutely nothing in front of him. The guy slammed into the girl's chest at full throttle, and she was very surprised. The girl told the guy not to make a scene here, and she doesn't work. The main character told the girl he wanted to ask her for a favor. The girl looked at the guy and thought to herself that he was beautiful. Liu's girlfriend said they don't usually do this, but for the guy's sake, they'll help him. The system reported that the main character got 100 points for being friends with Liu Ruhong. Then Liu shouted cheerfully to the girls to welcome the guests. Then a group of girls cheerfully said they'd do just that, and asked the girls if they've seen a fugitive run in here. The Liu girl called the warrior Mr. Guan and said they couldn't hide the culprit. The warrior told the soldiers to search the house as soon as possible. Liu said they had no right to search the house because of the unfounded accusation. Mr. Guan said he could safely close the place down for obstruction of duty. Liu replied that the warrior chief comes here 10 times every month. Suddenly, some girl turned to Liu and told her not to embarrass the warriors. The soldiers were amazed to see a beautiful young girl on the balcony. The girl on the balcony was called Feng Linsheng. One of the soldiers said that her body was like a breeze. Feng said that if the soldiers wanted to find something, let them look for something. The main character was nearby at the time. He hid behind Feng's clothes. The guy was excited. He couldn't give himself away. He thought the girl smelled good. The warriors reported that they had searched inside and out and found no fugitive. Feng asked Mr. Guan if they would have any more questions. The soldier replied that they were indeed mistaken. Feng told the warrior that they could stay as they were opening soon. Mr. Guan thanked the girl. The warrior shouted to his soldiers to get out of here. The main character felt his whole case stiffen up and grabbed the girl's leg. Immediately, Feng felt uncomfortable. She could barely stay on her feet. The warrior asked the girl if she was hiding something. Feng said she wasn't hiding anything. Suddenly, some woman who entered grabbed the warrior's cheek menacingly. The woman told the warrior that he was here chilling, even though the fugitive had long since disappeared. The warrior replied to his wife that it was not so. The woman shouted to the warrior to hurry home. He replied that he was here for work. The Feng girl thought to herself pleased that the warriors had finally left. Feng then asked fearfully to the protagonist why on earth he was moving. Feng girl fell down beside the main character lying on the floor unconscious. Feng was very much frightened. The surrounding girls didn't understand why the main character fainted. After that, the Feng girl frightenedly said that the guy hurt himself. The surrounding girls told Feng to help the guy with her skills. The Feng girl decided to tear off some of her clothes to bandage the guy. After that, Feng shouted to the girls to prepare a hot bath and medicine and clear the room as well. After that, the protagonist was moved to a separate room in the building. The girls liked the guy. They said he was handsome. Someone even said that the main character could be slept with for free. The protagonist was still lying completely unconscious with his eyes closed. The guy was lying on a soft bed. There was a bandage over the arrow wound. The door opened and a Feng girl walked into the room. She noticed that everyone else had left. Feng came in and said she'd prepared some medicine for the wound so the boy would get well soon. One of the girls said that the main character was still unconscious. She didn't know how to help him. The other girl said that the guy would be helped by a medicine from his mouth. The girl got ready to kiss the guy. She said she'd have to try really hard not to spill anything. The girl with the green hair said her tongue would do. The other girl said she wanted to help the guy too. The protagonist received a message from the system that for every girl he charms, he gets 30 points. Feng girl shouted menacingly to her girlfriends to stop joking around. After that, Feng added that the main character was in a very bad way. She said that she would take care of him. The girls left the room. They didn't think it was fair. One of them wanted to taste the guy. Feng girl took and sipped the medicine she had prepared from the bowl. Then Feng thought she was doing it to save the guy's life. The system informed the guy that he got 100 points for successfully charming a girl. Feng kissed him at the same time. At the same time, the main character woke up and grabbed the girl by her clothes. Feng was very much surprised and embarrassed. She didn't expect the guy to wake up. Suddenly, the main character turned the girl over and kissed her. Feng couldn't understand what happened to the guy. Feng was surprised to feel that she could not resist. The system gave the guy a message that he gets a lot of points for successful dating. Suddenly, the protagonist found himself in some mythical forest he didn't realize where he was. Suddenly, two strange bluish creatures appeared in front of the boy. He thought they were slugs. The guy was surprised to notice that the slugs were starting to stick tightly to him. Then the next morning, the main character woke up in a room with a girl. The protagonist lay on the girl's chest and still thought he was surrounded by the slugs from his dream. The guy shouted menacingly to the slugs in his sleep that he was going to kill them all. Feng girl woke up and was very much startled and surprised to see the guy. Feng shouted very loudly in the room and the other girls were surprised. The fan asked the angry guy how he could harass her in her sleep. Then the girl punched the protagonist in the face. He was surprised. The protagonist couldn't tell if he really thought he had been hit. Then a girl came into the room and shouted to the protagonist that he was awake. The guy told the girls that he thanked them for their help because he really needed it. The girl told the guy he had to stay here and work for her to pay for her services. The main character says he doesn't want to trade his body, and he chooses option 2. The girl said if the guy didn't agree, they'd turn him in to the officers. The girls would get a bonus for catching the fugitive. The guy realized he had no choice but to go along with it. The protagonist stood up and said confidently that from this day forward he would be a member of Bai Hua Lao. The girl replied that it was a healthy choice. The protagonist looked at the girl and decided he would repay her for her kindness someday. That's how the guy started working at Bai Hua Lao. He did some heavy cleaning there. The girls came in and kept offering the guy a drink of water. Someone offered to wipe the sweat off his forehead. One of the girls suggested that the protagonist go to her room and relax. The guy replied that she should not worry about him. The system told the guy that he got points for charming every girl. The day ended and evening came. The main character was in his room. The guy looked up in the system that he'd managed to accumulate 1,000 points. He decided to find something to exchange them for. The protagonist looked into the system and thought he needed to find something useful. In the book of the technique of 1,000 wishes, described the effect of how to improve relationships and charisma points through contact with the opposite sex. The protagonist immediately thought about it and decided that this technique was perfect for him. The guy decided to check the price. The system said the book was worth 100,000 points. The guy was really surprised. He managed to earn only 1,000 points in just a couple of days. At which time a fairy suddenly appeared and decided to help the protagonist. The fairy thought the guy had some really interesting choices. She didn't want to deprive him of the opportunity to have fun. In the end, the fairy decided to make a one-time exception for a newcomer. The guy got a message from the system that he had a 99% discount for 10 minutes. The protagonist was excited about this advantage for newcomers and decided to take advantage of it right away. Then the main character got a new skill activation from the system. The system informed the guy that he had gotten an item called 1,000 secret techniques to increase his charisma points. After receiving the new item, the main character's body began to change. The guy's appearance has changed a lot thanks to the changes. One of the girls said that the guy was very nice tonight. Another girl added that it would be very nice if he was their guest. One of the girls said that the main character didn't seem so pretty even at the first meeting. The guy was serving tea to the client and asked him to take his time. Unexpectedly, the customer dropped the kettle due to his awkwardness, and it fell and broke. The client angrily said he was paying money for the girl's attention. They are only interested in the main character. The protagonist told the client that there was no one here more dazzling than him. The client very angrily yelled at the protagonist for bullying him. The customer gave his name as Gao Gan and accused the guy of provoking him. Feng's girlfriend apologized to Gao's client for the protagonist's behavior. She said the guy was new and didn't know how to communicate. The client thought about the girl's words. He decided to suggest something to her. Gao tossed the wine glass with some powder. No one noticed it. Gao told the girl that he would agree to forgive the protagonist if she drank wine with him. Eventually, the fan thanked the client and said she'd do it all. The customer told Feng that her face is quite matchless. He clarified how much it costs to feel her breeze. The girl turned around and told the client that her mission was art. The protagonist thought the girl should be affected by his powder. The girl went back to her bedroom. 15 minutes later, the potion began to take effect. Feng felt herself in a sort of slumber. She felt very hot. The fan became almost inadequate, and it was hot, and she undressed completely. At that time, the main character came to the door of the Feng girl. He brought her some food. The guy thanked the girl for helping him out. He said he brought her a special soup. The protagonist opened the door and saw a naked girl. He was very surprised. The surprised Feng girl looked at the guy. She was almost naked. The main character ran out of the room. He yelled to the girl that he didn't see anything. Suddenly, Feng came out of the room and grabbed the protagonist's hand. She told him to wait. The fan asked the main character to do her a favor. The guy was surprised. The protagonist asked the girl what he should do for her now. The girl said the glass contained a desire-enhancing powder. She asked the guy to bring her back to normal. Then the girl started to undress further in front of the surprised guy. Then the fangirl told the guy it would be free for him. The guy got a message from the system that he had an increase in charisma, at which time Gao's client got the wrong room. He knocked on the door and said that the powder should have kicked in by now. He added that he would put out the flames to the girl. Gao's client opened the door and walked into the room. He expected to see Feng there. Then Gao noticed he was greeted by a very different pumped-up woman. The woman said she'd help Gao if he couldn't sleep. Gao was very frightened and embarrassed. He shouted to the woman that he had made a mistake. Then the woman added that she didn't want Gao to be shy. She promised to help him relax. Two girls sitting in the building below heard a suspicious noise from above. One of the girls didn't understand why something was falling from the ceiling. The other said it was probably rats running around. The girl said there's a rat in the protagonist's heart that's beating and agonizing, trying to escape from the young body. The main character was in the room with the girl on the bed at the time. The Feng girl grabbed the sheet on the bed with her hand at this time. Afterward, there were bright red marks on the bed sheet. The main character started to pack and dress. He was very excited. The guy was pretty surprised that he could do it after all. The fan told the guy he shouldn't worry because it's her job. The guy told the girl she shouldn't act like she was embarrassed. The girl told the guy he was the first to say those words to her. She threw a pillow at him and demanded he get out. The main character walked out the door and yelled to the girl that he had already left. Feng hugged her pillow and wondered if she had said the wrong thing. The guy felt that his sensations were very real and not at all like in the game. Suddenly, the protagonist noticed a Gao client running down the street. Gao would be very scared. He decided that he would never forget today's shame. The girls looked at Gao, and one of them said that he shouldn't show up in such places with such an ugly body. The protagonist spotted Gao running in the courtyard and recognized him immediately. The guy realized he was seeing the scumbag who drugged the fangirl earlier. The protagonist thought to himself that if it weren't for the Gao, the mistress would be fine. At the same time, he had a good opportunity to practice the techniques. The protagonist is alone in his room with a cat sitting at the window watching him. The system told the guy that the level of 1,000 secret techniques had risen to level 2. The main character has activated the skill to charm living things. The guy thought to himself that it was very difficult to evaluate new skills. The guy looked at the cat and decided he needed to use this technique. The protagonist petted the cat and said he was beginning to use the technique of charming living things. The guy's new skill had an immediate effect on the cat. The animal liked him. The protagonist took the cat in his arms and it snuggled up to him and mewed. The guy decided to himself that the new skill was working well and efficiently. The main character was walking down the street. He got some coins and bought a gift for a fan. When the guy looked closely, he saw someone he knew. A girl with bright white hair asked the shopkeeper if the item was for sale. The salesman told the girl that she had good taste. He offered to give her a 20% discount because of her beauty. The price would end up being 800 taels. The girl thought the price of 800 taels wasn't much. At that, her father asked her to consider spending away from home. The girl stood near the counter and could not choose exactly what thing to buy. The main character came over. He asked the salesman how much it cost. The seller said he could sell the item at a 20% discount. The protagonist asked if the item was made of ice stone. The seller added that the piece is made of the finest jade with pieces of ice. It is a very skillful and expensive work. The protagonist asked the salesman if the item belonged to him. The salesman replied that he could not lie as it was his jewelry store. The guy looked at the thing and said he wished it was real. Then suddenly, with a very slight movement, the guy broke the thing in his hands. The main character told the girl that the hairpin was of terrible quality and fake. He advised her to be more careful about what she bought. The girl said threateningly to the seller that he had no conscience at all because he was selling a fake. The salesman yelled menacingly to the guy that he was in trouble because he had broken his merchandise. 2 guards came out and told the protagonist he'd be in trouble if he didn't want to pay. The girl excitedly told the guard that you can't cheat people like that. At this time, the main character suddenly stopped the girl from interfering. The guy said he'd handle it. He activated his charisma. One of the guards asked the protagonist menacingly if he had mistaken them for ordinary fighters. The guard said they graduated from the Lu Academy as professional fighters. The fighters yelled very angrily to the guy to get ready to die. The girl told the guy that although his opponents look stupid, he himself is ambitious and should not underestimate them. The guy was surprised that the girl called him ambitious. The girl was surprised she didn't understand why. After she saw the face of the main character, her heart beat faster. The warrior swung around and yelled for the guy to catch his fist from the luha. The guy poked his opponent in the stomach and said he'd smitten him with the seductive finger of essence. Suddenly the fighter fell to the ground. He said cheerfully that he was pleased and at ease. The subordinates were surprised. They couldn't understand what kind of spell this guy had put on their boss. The protagonist threatened the fighters that if they kept it up, it would be their turn. The guy told the fighters that he was attacking them with a seductive essence finger. The warriors were very much in love. Then the warriors rushed to their boss. They hugged him and called him brother. A little boy looked at the fighters and asked his mother what they were doing. The mother told her son not to even look. The salesman shouted to the warriors that they were going to scare away all the customers. The girl told the guy with interest that he had some interesting tricks. The boy told the girl that he learned his techniques from an old man in the village. He asked the girl what her name was. The girl said her name was Yun Shuehan. She is a student of Yun Yinmen. The guy replied that he was pleased to meet her. Yun told the boy that in a couple of days, there would be an apprentice selection. If he was interested, he could test his strength. Gao came over. He told the Yun girl that he had been looking for a long time and she had been here all the time. Yun asked angrily to the guy what he cared where she was. The main character asked Gao with interest where he had gone since he hadn't seen him for days in the House of 100 Flowers. Yun asked Gao with great attention if he had a guilty conscience because he went to brothels. Gao told the girl not to trust the main character. He called him an errand boy. The protagonist asked Gao if he had forgotten how they used to party. Gao was very frightened and told the Yun girl that he would explain everything to her. Yun turned around and started to walk away. She said that Gao would report to the head teacher. Gao called the protagonist a scoundrel and said he's a stick in the mud. The main character said cheerfully to Gao that all the girls miss him. At this time of the evening in the brothel, the Feng girl was in her room. Feng stood by the mirror and looked long into it. She thought of her own. Feng was surprised for the past couple days. Only the silhouette of the main character had popped up in her thoughts. The girl remembered how her boyfriend gave her a very beautiful piece of jewelry. Feng looked at the gift in surprise. She repeated to herself the question of whether she liked the jewelry. The protagonist replied that to him this trinket was the most useless. The fan said very dreamily to the guy that she liked him a lot. The protagonist told the girl to rest and he went about his business. At which time the guy immediately noticed that the girl had dropped the pink handkerchief. The protagonist quickly bent down to pick up the handkerchief and hand it to the girl. Suddenly Feng slid her foot to the guy's face and told him to take it easy. The fan told the main character that he'd be out of work today and he's booked. The guy replied with surprise to the girl fan that it would be very expensive to book him. The girl told the guy not to underestimate. She asked the main character how much he wanted. Suddenly the girl Feng surprised the guy didn't answer anything but just hugged him. After that, the main character kissed the fangirl. She didn't expect it. The guy told the girl that this kiss was enough and could serve her well. The moon rose in the night sky. Feng girl told the protagonist that it was already very late. Feng, lying on the bed, asked the guy to give her a chance to forget everything. The girl was completely enchanted by the protagonist. She didn't take her eyes off him. Feng was still lying with her hands clutching the sheet. The guy received a message about the increase in charm experience points. The next day, the protagonist woke up in his room at the brothel. There was a glass of water on a piece of paper on the table next to the main character's bed. The guy apologized to his concubine and said he was up late so he was going to have them cook him early. Sitting down on the bed, the protagonist looked to the side and saw a glass. The guy reads the note. The girl wrote that she's leaving and hopes the guy has no remorse. The system told the guy he got a new card called Feng Ling. As a bonus, the protagonist was given the ability to use his gaze to confuse the target. The guy didn't expect the first character card to be unlocked like that. The girl was surprised at the request from the guy. She said that Feng Ling had redeemed herself this morning. She asked the guy if he really wanted to leave. The protagonist said he had an illegal case left. He added that he would remember the hospitality. The girl said she couldn't let Xiao Yuan stay so easily. She would add that she wouldn't let him leave so easily. She called the other girls over. The girls all rushed joyfully to the boy Yuan. They begged him not to leave and said they would do anything he wanted. The protagonist thought to himself dreamily that it's great that girls don't just let him go. The system started giving the guy points for another successful seduction. The protagonist stood up. He told the lying girls that they would see each other again. On the street, the boy Gao found the girl Yun and addressed her with words. Gao said he received a letter from his teacher. He suggested he return to the clan today. It would help prepare for the initiation ceremony of the new generation of disciples. Yun replied that the place was not far away. If the Emperor's sword is here, it won't take more than an hour and there's no need to worry. Gao asked if the girl had any secrets if she was in no hurry to return to the clan. The main character was suddenly standing in front of the girl. Yuan shouted sharply to the Yun girl that he was very happy to see her here. The girl asked the guy to tell her what he wanted. The main character said he wanted to go to the Yunan clan to study with the teacher. He wanted Miss Yunan to give him a ride. The girl said it was no big deal. She added that she would ride the Yuan on her imperial sword. Gao said that men and women shouldn't touch each other, so Yun can't go with the protagonist. He said he would drive the boy himself. Gao thought to himself that he would leave Yun halfway there. Yuan said to Gao that he had a foul odor of sweat. In response, Gao shouted that it was the main character's stink. He promised he would kill him. The whole thing made the Yun girl laugh a lot. Gao said angrily to the girl not to listen to the main character's ramblings. Yun's girlfriend told Gao not to make excuses for her, and then she called the main character over. At the end, the Yun girl told the protagonist to hold on to her when the sky is high and the wind is strong. The main character looked at the girl happily and said he understood. Yuan and the girl took off on a long flight over the valleys. The protagonist flew next to the girl. They were quickly crossing the space. Yun told the boy that the first sword flight would be very stressful. She added that he should hold on to her. The protagonist told the girl he'd be rude if he did. Yuan told the girl that she smelled nice. He asked her if all the Celestials had such a fragrance. Yun asked the guy what she smelled like. Gao followed the protagonist and the girl. Gao thought angrily to himself that the protagonist is very close to the Yun girl. Then the protagonist turned around and teased the Gao with his gesture. Gao was very angry. He thought to himself that he wouldn't consider himself a man if he didn't kill the protagonist. Gao thought to himself that if Yuan can't wait to die, he'll do it right now. Gao eventually decided to use the guiding needle against the protagonist. Gao thought the crane needle was very poisonous. He decided to kill the protagonist in one shot. Gao directed his flight to be right behind Yuan. He sent a needle at him. Gao activated the poison needle and it flew towards the protagonist. Suddenly the Yun girl became very wary because of the sound she heard. The girl shouted excitedly to the protagonist to be careful. Yun girl was very surprised to see Gao Yuan behind her. She did not understand where he came from. Gao shouted to the girl that she had misunderstood him. He just wanted to deal with the Yuan. Immediately the girl was very scared. She decided to fly to the side. Yun abruptly changed her flight path and headed downward with the guy. The girl and her boyfriend disappeared into the depths of the water. Guy Gao was very frightened and called the Yun girl's name loudly. Gao was very excited. He didn't know what he would say to his mentor now. Gao thought the boy and the girl had been struck by the crane spirit's haze. He couldn't do anything about it now. Gao thought that even if he didn't save the Yun girl, he would inform his mentor, who wouldn't forgive him. He decided it would be better for him if the girl was dead. He has no other choice. Gao flew to the side. He thought that if the Yun girl wanted to accuse him, she should look at herself first. Yun was drowning in the water. She thought to herself that she was very cold. The girl felt like she couldn't breathe and was losing consciousness. Suddenly, Yun felt someone would touch her face with their hand. The main character dived in and picked up the girl so she wouldn't drown. Yuan then kissed the girl and mentally apologized to her. The Yun girl opened her eyes and noticed a large sword in the water flying towards her. The protagonist realized that Yuan Shuihan's saber was flying in their direction. He realized that he also had a natural ability. The boy drew his sword and said that in such a case he could only rely on it. The protagonist decided to jump out of the water with his girlfriend near the rocks. With the help of the sword, Yuan and the girl were able to break out of the water and take off. Eventually, the protagonist joyfully flew upwards, holding the girl in his arms. After a long flight, the guy along with Yun landed among the green trees. The protagonist helped the girl to sit down by the tree and said that just like that, the danger was over. Suddenly, the protagonist was distracted by some growling from outside. Yuan saw a pack of wolves in front of him. He asked them to let him rest. Then the protagonist recognized that he was facing a bloodthirsty wolf. Yuan thought that in that case, all he had to do was fight. He had only escaped certain death. At the same time, the bloodthirsty wolf lunged at the protagonist with a snarl. Yuan received a system prompt. He was offered to get a new swordsmanship skill for 500 points. At the same time, the protagonist was able to effectively repel the wolf's attack. Yuan repelled the wolf thanks to a skill called Left Cloud Strike. For hitting the target, he received 50 points. Yuan was happy that killing monsters added points to his score. Against the wolves, the protagonist used various skills called Turbulent Flow, Inarticulateness, and others. For each target defeated, he received points. The protagonist looked around and saw a huge pack of wolves in front of him. Yuan was surprised that no matter how many wolves he killed, there was still no end to them. Yuan felt that his combat skills were very low. He couldn't just waste them anymore. Suddenly, the protagonist heard a large monster growling behind him. A huge and vicious bear with a fang on its head rose up behind the guy. The protagonist recognized the demonic earth bear standing before him. Yuan realized he was facing a 4-star monster. He had to kill it. Immediately, the protagonist gestured with his hand to the big bear. Yuan told Mrs. Bear to approach him to become friends. A vicious bear prepared to attack the protagonist. The guy realized his skill wasn't working. He thought that the bear had a very high level and grabbed him with her paws. Suddenly, Bear lifted the protagonist up on her paws and licked him. Bear glared menacingly at the pack of wolves standing nearby. Briefly, Bear thoughtful, she looked at the predators in front of her. Then Bear started attacking the wolves, scattering them around. The bear's attack sent the wolves flying in all directions around the neighborhood. After an attack from the bear, the angry wolves decided to retreat to the side. The bear shouted very loudly and angrily after the fleeing wolves. Late in the evening, the protagonist took refuge in a cave with the bear. Yuan was sitting next to a fire where fish were roasting, and Bear was sitting next to it. Yuan slipped the beast a fish. He thanked her for helping him. The bear cuddled up to the boy. Yuan told the beast that he had other things to do and would play with her later. Guy told young girl he wanted to try to detoxify her body. The protagonist carefully turned the clothes on the back on the girl's body. The girl sat still. She was willing to let the guy help her. Yuan told the girl that he would help her and completely suck out the poison. Yun decided to continue to sit still and be patient. She hoped the guy would help her. Yuan thought that as soon as the poison enters his mouth, he can immediately feel it spreading through his body. Yuan thought, we can't stop. We must get rid of the poison as much as possible. The girl continued to wait and endure while the guy helped her with her treatment. Suddenly, Yun, as if she had come to her senses, she saw a very bright light in front of her in the cave. The girl opened her eyes and looked carefully in front of her. Yun gradually came to her senses. She was lying near the stone wall, wrapped in a cloth. The girl stood up abruptly and looked around. She couldn't understand what had happened here. Yun noticed traces of blood nearby, but couldn't figure out where her clothes had gone. Suddenly, the girl imagined the protagonist pouncing on her naked. Yun was frightened. At which time the main character came and brought food. He told the girl that it was good that she was awake. Suddenly, the girl went for the guy with the sword. He couldn't understand what she was doing. Yun yelled to the main character that while she was unconscious, he took advantage of her. She said she would kill the guy and then kill herself. The protagonist shouted to the Yun girl with consternation that she was completely wrong. At the last moment, the girl stopped her blade near the guy's neck. The girl looked in front of her and asked Yuxiao if he wanted her to kill the protagonist. She got the answer that Yuan had done nothing wrong. Suddenly, the protagonist coughed up blood and didn't feel well. The girl asked the guy in surprise what had happened to him. Yuan explained to the girl that while he was sucking out the poison, he had poisoned himself. Yuan was surprised because the guy had saved her by sucking out the poison. The guy thought to himself happily that he had eaten a couple of fruits but hadn't finished chewing them. Yun asked the guy why he wasn't hurt, even though he was attacked by Gaogan. Yuan replied that he had received a gift from the girl, a jade pendant in the shape of a maple leaf, and it was this that had saved him. The girl told the guy she wanted to thank him for saving her. She offered to teach the guy a hidden technique to detoxify him. The guy said it won't work because he doesn't belong to the Yun clan. The girl replied that he had saved her, and the clan would definitely agree to take him on as an apprentice. The protagonist bowed to the girl and called her Mrs. Yun. She told him that he could already change the way he addressed her. Yuan thanked the girl and called her mentor Yun. The girl replied that it was time to start training. At the same time, in the Yunying clan residence, Gao was chatting together with the clan head. The head of the clan was called Yun Zunyan. He asked in surprise if the girl had fallen into the ice lake. Gao replied meekly that it was all the protagonist's fault. Yuan tricked the girl into taking him with her. It was the guy who dragged the girl into the ice lake with him. The clan head turned to the students and told them to immediately find Yun's remains in the lake if she was dead. All the students answered their mentor in unison that they would do so. Gao turned to the clan leader and asked him to send him on a search as well. The clan leader told Gao not to blame himself because he's not guilty of anything. He should make every effort to find the girl. In the end, a very satisfied Gao told the clan leader that he would do just that. Gao Xiong entered the room. He was the clan's immortality elixir development leader. He saw his son Gao. Then Gao Xiang said that only recently he had perfected a medicine that increases strength temporarily if applied to the body. The son ran up to his father and thanked him. He promised that he would definitely find the Yun girl. Gao then said it was urgent and he should leave first. Gao Xiang told the clan leader that he shouldn't be too nervous. The head replied that he was worried because his daughter was missing. Gao Xiang said that his son's girlfriend is a childhood friend, and in the future they will definitely get married, so he is also worried. The clan leader replied that such a topic can be raised only if Gao Gan will lead the clan. The clan head told Gao Shun not to rely too much on pill-making and medicinal improvement. He added that the best way was to cultivate on one's own. Gao Xiang thought to himself sad that he was being taught by his mentor brother. Gao Xiang thought to himself that his family would end up leading the clan, while the protagonist was sitting on the shore of the lake trying to catch fish. Yuan thought that fishing was a difficult occupation, but he could not return empty-handed as he would be ridiculed by the girl and the bear. The protagonist looked at his reflection in the water and realized that there was no use for the power of charm and beauty would not help him get food. At which time suddenly the guy noticed that his float was twitching in the water. Yuan suddenly noticed a swarm of large fish jumping out of the water. The guy ended up seeing a bunch of fish dumped on the shore in front of him. Yuan decided that the fish had fallen under the power of his charm. He decided that the attraction helped him find food. The protagonist looked up and saw several men flying through the air not far away. Yuan thought that the monks of the Yun Yin clan had come looking for the Yun girl. He decided to go back and talk to the girl. At the same time, the Yun girl was sitting in the cave and cultivating. Yun sat in the lotus posture and completely disconnected from the world around her. The girl felt that the poison was completely drained from her body and it would take her a couple more days to regain all her skills. Suddenly the girl heard a noise in the cave as if someone was coming. The girl asked and walked in to see if it was Qin Yuan who had returned to her now. Suddenly the girl was very surprised and scared all at once. Gao came in. He asked the girl why she was so friendly to the protagonist. Yun shouted that Gao had hurt her, and promised that she would report it to her mentor and he would punish her. Gao told the girl that he didn't understand how she was able to survive her injury. Yun replied that there was no turning back and that Gao Gan would do whatever he wanted. Gao angrily told the girl that she wasn't giving him a chance. Yuan had only been able to get close to her for a couple of days. He added that if he couldn't get her, he would destroy her. Gao told the girl that thanks to the medicine his father gave him, she would be no match for him. Gao promised the girl that he would chop off her arms and legs and then bring her to her knees. Yun was very much surprised at what kind of power and effect Gao got from the medicine. The cure transformed Gao into a huge and powerful warrior. Yun thought fearfully to herself that she could not resist such power in her current state. Gao prepared to finish the girl he had already said goodbye to her. Suddenly a very large fish from the side flew straight into Gao's face. Gao turned around and angrily asked who dared to attack him. Yuan told his opponent that they had met again. The protagonist said to Gao that they met just in time. The girl shouted to the guy to be careful since Gao Gan wants to take their lives. Gao told the protagonist and the girl that they would die together here and now. The protagonist looked at the message from the system for defeating Gao. He would get 500 points. The main character asked the girl to lend him a sword. Yun asked the guy to be careful. The protagonist accelerated. He was ready to attack his opponent. Yuan decided to strike Gao immediately with a sword thrust while he defended himself. The protagonist continued to throw punches. He was able to lightly catch Gao in the face. Gao told the protagonist that he was just a beginner swordsman. After that, Gao used a skill called Sword Shine against his opponent. The protagonist had a very hard time fending off a heavy blow from Gao. As a result of the battle, Yuan could not hold back the blow any further and fell to the ground. The main character flew far to the side from Gao's very strong blow. The protagonist ended up lying on the earth. He coughed and couldn't get up. Gao came over and grabbed the guy by his clothes. He commanded him to get up. Gao shouted angrily that he would torture Yuan to death and then kill the Yun girl. The protagonist looked at his opponent and told him he was an idiot. Yuan then pinched Gao and said that he had activated the seduction skill. Gao replied to the surprised opponent that this skill affects all living creatures. The protagonist once again pinched Gao very hard through his clothes. Gao suddenly had a romantic transformation. He took his eyes off the protagonist. Yuan commanded sharply to his weapon to let the sword fly to his hand. The protagonist grabbed the sword in his hand and prepared to attack his opponent. Then the protagonist, after a great swing, chopped off Gao's arm with his sword. Yuan used the highest level of cloud swordsmanship technique. Gao was very surprised and frightened. He couldn't believe the guy had cut off his arm. Gao started to run away. He shouted that he would get revenge on the protagonist. All he had to do was to find his father. Suddenly Gao hit something very large and soft at full speed. Gao was surprised and frightened. He couldn't understand what kind of monster was standing in front of him. The bear looked at Gao very angrily. He was very frightened. Gao looked dazedly at the predator and realized that he could not escape. Gao shouted with all his might to the bear that he didn't need to be attacked. The system displayed a message that the protagonist had received 500 points for capturing Gan. After that, the girl and the protagonist returned to their clan's castle. Yun's girlfriend was very detailed about everything that happened. Yun told the clan leader that Gao Gan had fatally wounded her with a hidden weapon, but the protagonist had gone to great lengths to save her. Gao's distraught father couldn't believe what his son had done. The clan leader said that attempted murder of a fellow clan member is punishable by execution, but he said he would keep Gao alive. The father must watch his son to make sure he doesn't do anything wrong again. Afterward, the father thanked the clan head for showing mercy. Then Gao's father said he and his son would be the first to leave. The clan leader told the protagonist he could ask anything to save the girl. Yuan bowed to the clan head and said that his best wish was to be trained by them. The clan leader said they were ready to welcome the protagonist with open arms. Due to the large number of applicants, they've introduced a challenge. The girl said the guy offered to do everything he could to save her. Yuan told the girl to stay out of it. The guy said that the clan head shouldn't break his principles for him. Yuan promised to pass all the tests before he joined the clan. The clan leader replied that such words he expected from the man his daughter had brought. Yun thought that her father's words sounded strange. The girl told the guy to follow her, and she'd show him the Yunyin clan. The main character was walking and saw beautiful scenery with a bridge in front of him. Yuan exclaimed delightedly that he saw before him a wonderful and beautiful landscape. The girl told the guy not to waste time. She added that he should undress as soon as possible. Yuan was surprised at such a request from a girl. He asked if it was too early. Yun replied to the guy that she had brought him always to practice the snow melting technique of 6 suns. In the snow melting technique of the 6 suns, there are 6 levels. On each level, the guy will feel the presence of the sun differently. At the same time, the Yun girl slightly removed her clothes, sitting behind the guy. The girl touched the guy with her hands and said that she would help him if he couldn't reach the 3rd level. The protagonist went into full-on cultivation. The system reported that the guy had reached level 3. The girl sensed to herself that the protagonist had successfully broken through the 2nd level. Suddenly, the protagonist felt sick to his stomach and a wave ran through his body. The protagonist felt himself getting unbearably hot. I noticed that my boyfriend's body temperature is rising and veins are starting to show on his body. Suddenly, the main character collapsed and started coughing up blood. Yuan lay motionless on the earth. He felt very hot. The girl thought that the inner fire arises at the moment of cultivation. It cannot be suppressed and must be waited for. She did not know what to do. At this time, the girl looked carefully at the protagonist, who was still lying there. I thought men and women weren't supposed to kiss like that. The protagonist lay motionless with veins protruding from his body and kept saying he was hot. The girl realized the guy couldn't take it if he kept it up. She had no other method to save him. After that, the girl stretched her leg towards the main character she needed to help him. Yun bent her leg slightly and guided it slowly towards the main character's body. In the end, the protagonist was still lying on earth, feeling ill. The girl continued to massage the protagonist with her legs. After the whole hour had passed, the protagonist felt much better. Yuan opened his eyes. He was relieved and no longer felt the heat in his body. The protagonist had completely passed into himself. He exhaled a sigh of relief as he lay on the earth. Yun noticed that the main character woke up. Yuan asked with interest to the girl what happened. Yun told the guy that he was on edge for that reason. She decided to help him to make him feel better. The main character said he wanted to thank the girl for helping him. Yuan asked the girl why her face was flushed. Yun replied that she was just a little tired. The guy thought to himself that he didn't expect to reach the 4th level. He felt a great energy in his body. Yuan gained an additional skill for himself in the form of a face change. All of a sudden, the protagonist heard a threatening noise from the sky. The protagonist heard someone flying through the sky yelling for him to die. The protagonist gathered his strength and prepared to attack the unfamiliar warrior. Yuan managed to swat away the hand of a dangerous opponent in time with his hand. A huge bluish ball appeared in the air between the hovering fighters. The protagonist realizes that he's been targeted by a stealth attack and decides that the warrior can't do much more than that. The protagonist was very surprised when he noticed his hand was starting to freeze. Yuan began to completely freeze. He couldn't understand how this happened. Yun girl called out to the protagonist fearfully. She realized that he had been attacked by an ice demonic palm. At this time, the unfamiliar warrior turned around and started running towards the girl. The girl thought to herself that her body was still recovering from helping the protagonist. She realized that she was in for a rough ride. At the same time, the warrior attacked the girl with a special spell. Yun told the stranger that judging from his movements he was a student of their clan. She asked why he was attacking them. At the same time, the main character began to come to his frozen state. Yuan thought confidently to himself that you shouldn't underestimate people. The protagonist was able to break the ice that bound him. He prepared to fight. Yuan told the unfamiliar warrior that he would not be interested in his motives or stories. The protagonist shouted to the enemy that he would only be a stepping stone for him to step over. Yuan continued to attack the warrior. Suddenly, the stranger's clothes on his chest ripped. The protagonist was very much surprised. He saw a woman's breasts under the torn clothes. The guy was surprised to think to himself that he had just fought against a girl. Yuan noticed that the warrior girl started to fly away from him. He yelled for her to stand. Yun's girlfriend yelled to the head hero not to run after the stranger. Yuan replied that the warrior girl had injured Yun and he should help her. Yun said that the ice demon palm can do various kinds of damage. It could draw in cold air and then spread it all over her body. The main character asked the girl where she was shot. He wanted to help her. Yun ended up showing the guy her breasts a little embarrassed. The protagonist told the girl that now is not the time to think about gender differences. Yun replied that she understood. With concentration, the protagonist told the girl that he was starting. Yuan warned his girlfriend to get ready. The girl closed one eye. The system informed the guy about his increased experience of limitless magic. Yun asked the guy why his hands were constantly moving. Yuan replied to the girl that friction would speed up regeneration and spread the heat. The girl felt warm and comfortable, as if a hot current was running through her body to dispel the cold. After an hour of long treatments, the guy told the girl that the cold had finally left her body. Yun replied to the guy that it only took her half an hour to get rid of the chills. She asked why the guy was still doing half an hour. Yuan replied to his girlfriend that he wanted to finally get rid of the coldness in her body just in case. Yun replied to the guy unhappily that although he had passed her again, but she would not thank him. Yuan suggested that the girl practice tomorrow to prevent the cold from spreading. Yun gave a very angry look at the main character. The guy replied that he was joking. The girl said that the stranger in black, judging by her movements, belonged to their clan. Now we need a way to track her down. The protagonist said he wounded a stranger, so he must have a wound on his chest. Now we can keep a close eye on everyone in the clan. At the same time, the wounded woman was in the woods. She fell to the ground. The girl couldn't understand how the protagonist dared to disrupt her plans. A strange man came up and told the girl that such a chance doesn't come along very often. The girl saw Gao Shun standing in front of her. She asked what he wanted. The man replied that they now had a common enemy. He offered to help the girl if she would help him. The man handed the girl a small vial of medicine for treating stab and arrow wounds that would help the girl get rid of her scars. After a moment's thought, the girl told Gao Shun that she would join him. A couple days later, there was a big clan meeting in the courtyard. Yuan said that the Yun Yin clan is really very big and many people have come to join them. Yun told the guy that he had to perform at his best and that he shouldn't expect mercy. A Mo Ningxuang girl appeared. She was a student of the clan. She asked Yun if the guy she was talking about so much lately was standing next to her. Yun said a little shyly that she doesn't talk about the main character that much anymore. Mo girl approached the main character and introduced herself. She said that she was Yuan's older sister. Yuan was very surprised that his girlfriend had such a beautiful older sister. Yun girl grabbed the guy's cheek and he felt it hurt. Yun told the guy very sternly not to hit on her sister. The system told the guy that he got points for successful seduction. The girls around him said that Yuan was very attractive. They were willing to work hard for him. The clan warrior said that the protagonist was very arrogant. All the beauties of the clan fell in love with Yuan. The clan head told everyone present that he was very glad that they had decided to participate in the current selection of followers. The man said the first step was very simple. He showed a plant and said it was called Yun Yin herb. It only grows on the peak of the mountain. The contestants must collect 10 of these herbs in 3 hours. One of the guests said it wasn't that hard. The other guy thought that if the others were like him, he would have no problem getting into the clan. The clan leader said that the difficulty of the stages may not be entirely accurate, and that participants could expect danger. He suggested that those who think they are not strong enough should stay. The clan leader announced that the trial was starting and the contestants had 3 hours. Immediately, all the warriors rushed out of their seats and ran to fulfill the task. The protagonist didn't run away. He was left all alone in the center of the square. Yun asked the guy with fright why he was standing. She added that grass is very hard to find. Yuan said in a calm voice that there was no need to worry and let the projectile fly a little longer. Yun was very surprised at this answer. She didn't understand what kind of projectile the guy was referring to. While the girls were walking through the woods, one of them said that the task was much harder than one might expect. The other girl said that in half a day they had only found a couple of plants. She added that they had to meet the deadline. The girl noticed something very beautiful in the distance. The girl said that she had just glanced at it, and her eyes were already blurred. The girls spotted the main character bathing in a hot spring. The girls thought that they had seen a water spirit. Yuan activated at this time a skill called Gloating Grin. The main character told the girls that the water was very warm and they could go for a swim. The girl said she was embarrassed because it was their first time meeting. The other girl shyly said they wouldn't right away. The girl shouted to her friend why she had undressed right away. The girlfriend said she had to. After that, the girl said she wanted to do the same. She started undressing too. The system gave the guy points for successful seduction. A girl said if they became the main character's classmates, they could see each other every day. Yuan told the sad girls that he can't find the right herbs yet, so they need to part ways. The girls excitedly told the guy not to worry. They promised they'd get everything together for him. The protagonist asked the girls with a chuckle if it was okay to do that. The girls said they want to spend more time with him, and there's nothing wrong with that. Yuan said to himself, to be an Alfonso is good, and sitting on a woman's neck is very comfortable. The protagonist thought to himself that he'd already taken care of 2 girls. A naked girl came into the water. She said that she had never seen such a guy before and really wanted to spend the night with him. The guy said it's rare to get a chance to be with a hottie like that, but there's a problem. The protagonist found a long algae in the water and said that the girl is the flower wickedness and wants to suck the life force out of him. Suddenly, the girl's appearance began to change. She turned greenish. Immediately, the girl looked like a typical swamp dweller. The girl told the guy he could just accept. She doesn't like that. The swamp girl ordered her vines to tie up the protagonist. Yuan noticed green algae reaching for him from all directions. Very quickly, the protagonist found himself completely bound by algae. Swamp girl told the guy that she would only absorb his life energy and not kill him. Yuan gave the girl a sly look and said that he wasn't sure who would absorb who yet. The protagonist commanded that a spell called Scorching Sun be activated. Immediately, the swamp girl screamed that she was really hot. The swamp girl begged the guy to spare her as she realized her mistake. Yuan told the girl that she could escape execution, but she would be punished for sucking the energy of others. Swamp girl looked sadly at the guy and said that it would be too much. The system gave the guy a message that his experience with unlimited magic had been increased. Yuan told the girl that she had good skills. He advised her not to take the wrong path. The girl thanked the guy for the instruction. She added that she would focus on cultivation. Suddenly, a long cry for help echoed through the valley. 2 girls were grabbed by a huge tree. One of them didn't understand why the tree demon was protecting the grass. Immediately, the evil tree wanted to run over the girls it caught. The girl was very frightened. She didn't have the strength to save herself. The girl shouted very fearfully to the tree to stop. Suddenly, the main character appeared and chopped down the tree thanks to the dragon constellation skill. The reanimated tree growled angrily and wanted to attack the protagonist. Yuan said he wouldn't let anyone harm his future sisters. The girls excitedly shouted that the guy was very handsome and had come to save them. Yuan received points from the system for successful seduction. The main character told the girls confidently not to worry, and he would save them. Yuan pounced on the tree very bravely and began to smack the branches with all his might. The tree started throwing pieces of its branches back at the guy. A large piece of branch hit the protagonist's face and hurt him a bit. Yuan thought to himself that he should dodge the branches and be more careful. The girls were outraged that a tree dared to scratch the beautiful face of the protagonist. One of the girls shouted menacingly to the tree not to expect mercy. The girls began to free themselves en masse from the branches that had pulled them down. The tree was very surprised. It didn't expect the captives to escape so easily. The main character watched in amazement as the girls attacked the tree with a flying death blade. The protagonist looked to the side and saw the Yunyan herb. He decided to get straight to the point. A couple minutes later, the tree lay completely destroyed on Earth. The girls said they dealt with the tree for daring to hurt the protagonist. The girl looked around and saw that the Yuan had disappeared, even though it had been here recently. The protagonist went very far and found only 6 plants. He realized it wasn't that easy. Suddenly, a warrior with a weapon appeared from above the protagonist. The protagonist barely had time to dodge as the warrior slammed his axe into the ground with all his might. Yuan saw a bunch of fighters near him. He told them that instead of gathering, they ambushed him. One of the warriors said it was very difficult to find the plants. He advised that the protagonist should give up his crop voluntarily and not cause trouble to anyone. Yuan looked at the fighters in surprise and asked if they could find only 1 plant. The warriors very threatening and looked at the protagonist in silence. After that, Yuan activated his fighting skill and started beating up his opponents. The beaten warriors decided to give their plants to the protagonist as a gift. The protagonist took the plants and thanked his rivals. 3 hours later, the protagonist arrived at the square where the clan was gathered. The clan head congratulated those who had passed the first stage. He also added that the winner of the first stage could immediately become a disciple of the Yunyan clan. The protagonist turned to the girls and told them not to be discouraged. He added that if they worked harder, they would succeed. The Yun girl looked at the protagonist and said happily that Qin Yuan really is Qin. The guy received a message that he had been awarded points for seduction. The girls around him congratulated Yuan. They said they knew he would do well. One of them even suggested that he go to the girls' dormitory. Yun girl thought to herself sad that the main character turns out to be popular. The girl noticed white snow sprinkled over the grounds of the clan's residence. Yun didn't understand why her heart felt heavy even though the protagonist had entered. Suddenly the girl heard the main character say next to her that he had found something. Yun was surprised to see the guy next to her. The main character said that he knew the girl would be here. Yun asked the boy why he had come. She clarified if he was to enjoy the attention of the mentor sisters. Yuan looked at the girl and said that he wanted to share his joy with her. Yun recalled that she was the one who had trained him. The main character was standing with a girl near the pool. He remembered that tonight was supposed to be the monthly revenge night. For this reason, All the female followers would come here to purify their bodies. Yun said that the man who attacked them earlier would come here today, and his body would show scars. The guy told the girl to remember her safety and to be careful. Yun replied that there would be a lot of people around. A lot of girls gathered around the pool and hung their clothes on a tree. One of them asked her friend if she had grown up. One of the girls at the pool said she wanted to take a bath with the main character. Yun pondered she didn't understand why she didn't observe the man with the injury. The protagonist was resting in his room with a sign on the door that said he was a follower of Qin Yuan. Yuan lay there thinking to himself that he didn't understand what was happening to Shuihan. The girl always walks by herself and acts aloof. Suddenly, the protagonist felt as if someone had launched a white substance at him. The guy saw an impenetrable white mist appear in front of him. A fairy showed up and told the guy that if he was worried, he could go see his girlfriend. The main character was surprised. He asked the fairy what she was doing here. The fairy said she has the ability to be anywhere she wants to be, but she can't influence what happens and others can't see her. The guy said he couldn't go to his girlfriend's because if he showed up in the women's bathing room, he'd get kicked out. The fairy looked at the guy with interest and said he needed to reincarnate as a girl. Yuan looked at the fairy seriously and said that he didn't care for jokes and didn't want to take any risks. The fairy said that the system store must have something to help the protagonist turn into a girl. The protagonist looked at the system menu and noticed it had what he needed. The illusion Kara skill gave the ability to reincarnate into a human by choice, and it was worth 1,000 points. Yuan hesitated. He thought he was being offered some sort of divorce. The fairy said it was just a game tip. She advised that the guy should turn into a girl as soon as possible. Yuan decided not to delay and activate the reincarnation process. The system activated the spell and the guy started transforming at once. After the reincarnation, white clothes appeared on the main character's body. Yuan transformed into a blue-eyed girl with white hair. Yuan became outwardly similar, absolutely completely to the familiar fairy. The fairy was very much surprised that the protagonist had turned completely into her. Yuan replied cheerfully to the fairy that he had a ready-made template in front of him, so he turned into her with only minor changes. The main character pointed out that his breasts were bigger than the fairy's. Yuan looked at her body and decided that she almost looked like a fairy. The fairy thought very unhappy that the protagonist was being picky. Yuan looked carefully at the girls in the bathhouse. He noticed that there was no one there with a scar on his chest. After that, the protagonist found his girlfriend Yun and called her. Yuan told his girlfriend that he would help her if she had a problem. The main character gestured to the girl to be quiet and said it was him. Yun was very surprised to see her friend in a girl's body. The protagonist told the girl that his new look was just a cover. Yun told the protagonist that he couldn't come here because he was a guy. Yuan replied that he just wanted to help. Then an unfamiliar girl came up from behind and called out to Yun's girlfriend. The stranger said that the girl standing next to Yun is very pretty. Yun wanted to say that the girl standing next to her is actually Qin Yuan's boyfriend. The main character suddenly stood up and confidently said his name was Qin Yuan. He called the girl's name Mo and asked her to take care of him. The Mo girl was very surprised because Qin Yuan knew her. The main character said that Mo and Yun girls are very famous and he knows them too. Mo called Qin Yuan a charming girl and said she wouldn't get in the way. Yuan asked the main character why he cheated Mo. Yuan answer told the girl if she checked Mo for scars. Yun excitedly said that she had known Mo's girlfriend for a long time and that she was very kind and trustworthy. Yuan said that he and his girlfriend were being watched by the other girls, but only Mo approached, which is very suspicious. Yun excitedly and with interest asked the protagonist what the plan was now. Yuan answered his girlfriend confidently so she wouldn't worry and rely on him. The main character climbed up on a rock and started yelling to the girls that a water snake had gotten into the hot spring. Then all the girls in the pool screamed and started running away. Then Yuan shouted that the water snake was swimming towards the Mo girl. Yuan shouted excitedly to the girl Mo that most likely a water snake had gotten under her towel. The protagonist yelled to the girl that he would help her and threw in the towel. The Mo girl was very frightened and embarrassed and she screamed. The protagonist looked at the Mo girl's body and noticed that it was very smooth. Immediately, the Mo girl asked with consternation where the water snake had gone. The protagonist was near Mo's chest and sensed something was wrong with his transformation. Yuan received a message that if a person in a state of transformation becomes aroused, it will dissipate. The protagonist realized that he might be exposed, that he sneaked into the bathhouse under the guise of a girl. The guy imagined very realistically how the clan members around him would decide to throw him out. Suddenly, the girl thought she saw a water snake. Standing next to the excited protagonist, the girl said she caught a snake. The protagonist silently and very confusedly looked at the Mo girl. The girl could not understand why the snake in her hands was stiff and as if dead. When Mo noticed the main character standing in front of her, she didn't realize what was going on. The girls standing behind Mo asked her excitedly if she was all right and if she had caught the snake. The confused Mo girl told her friends that the snake was very cunning and that they should leave as soon as possible. The girlfriends wished that Mo's girlfriend would be more careful and take care of herself. Mo told the guy that the girls had left and very sternly asked him to explain what was going on. Yuan confusedly asked the girl to get dressed first, and then they would continue the conversation. After the pool, the protagonist and his girlfriends gathered in the gazebo. After Mo asked her friends if they thought she was the killer who attacked them, the protagonist explained that the killer had a chest wound. That's what made Mo under suspicion. Mo girl started to undress and said Yuan could verify her innocence. Then the protagonist dreamily told the girl he was okay with it. Suddenly, the young girl punched the protagonist in the face with all her might. The whole thing was very amusing to Mo. She said that the main character and his girlfriend have a good relationship. The guy and the girl got very emotional and said they're not in a relationship. Mo told her friends that she wouldn't bother them. She added that the attack should be investigated as soon as possible. Yun thanked the Mo girl for her help and bid her farewell. The protagonist remained silent. He still had his suspicions about the Mo girl. Here at the same time, the Mo girl returned to her clan's building for a meeting. Mo told Mangao that she was beginning to be suspected by Yun and Guy Yuan. She added that she couldn't hide for too long. The man said that in a couple days he would perfect the divine pill and become the strongest man in the world. Mo replied to the man that the pill was an illegal drug. Gao replied to the girl that she didn't need to worry too much, she just needed to help him hold them off. The man turned to his son and said he would avenge him. The young Gao still dreamed of the Yun girl. The protagonist was in the middle of the square with a large ice cube next to him. Yuan decided to activate a spell called the Palm of the Scorching Sun. The protagonist was able to smash the ice cube with a punch thanks to a spell. After the Yuan hit, the ice cube completely disappeared and the area became completely empty. The clan leader told the protagonist that he was able to raise his technique to level 5 in a short period of time. Yuan bowed to the mentor and said that the manual only had information about the first 5 levels. There was nothing about the last level. The clan leader said that it is impossible to reach the last level alone. You need 2 men and a woman to practice the technique. Yuan asked the clan head if a paired cultivation method was required. The head of the clan said that it would be difficult for the guy to find someone who wanted to cultivate with him. At the same time, the protagonist imagined that a bunch of girls would want to cultivate with him. And for each of them, he would get points from the system. The head of the clan was surprised. He could not understand how this was even possible. The clan leader turned around and started to walk away. He said that he didn't understand the youth of today, and that he wanted the boy to figure it out for himself. Yuan approached his familiar girl Yun. He wanted to offer her cultivation. Yun very shyly and excitedly told the guy that she couldn't agree to something like this. The main character thought to himself that if the girl didn't want to agree, he would find another way. Yun asked the guy what he wanted to do. The main character turned around and told the girl she'd find out later. The protagonist put a sign on his door that he's opening a cultivation kit with him. A girl came to the protagonist and romantically asked him to be gentle. Yuan replied that this would not work as his method of testing is very crude. The girl left and slammed the door. The guy got an increase in experience unlimited magic. A large group of girls would gather near the main character's door. Yuan would get points for a successful seduction. The girls noticed Yuan approaching. One of the girls was worried that the Yuan would still have strength when her time came. The girl Yun came up. She was very interested in what the main character was doing now. At the same time, the main character told someone that the mentor sister wasn't a good fit. One of the girls came out and said very sadly that she wasn't suitable either. Yuan opened the door and told the next girl to come in and hurry up since he didn't have much time. The girls started crowding in to get to the guy. Yuan told them to get in on a first-come, first-served basis. After an hour, Yun decided to run into the room where the protagonist was sitting. Yun noticed a bunch of girls lying on the floor. One of them was saying that she was nice and hot. Yun walked in and sternly asked the protagonist what he had done to the mentors. The main character sat in lotus position on the bed and said that Yun had arrived on time and he was already waiting for her. The girl was very surprised that the guy knew she was coming to see him. Yuan told the girl that she was the right person to cultivate with. She wouldn't have come to him without a clear plan. Yun asked the protagonist a bit confusedly what he did to the girls. The protagonist went up to Yun and said he would show her. The girl was surprised. Yun lay relaxed on the sheet on the bed in the main character's room. The Yun girl felt very good. She even closed her eyes. Then Yun covered her face with her hands. She was still on the bed. The protagonist massaged the girl's right foot as she lay there. Yuan thought to himself that he had not expected the foot massage to have such an effect. The girl was still lying there. She thought to herself that she would never get married. The protagonist thought to himself that the Yun girl was the only one who had passed the test. He decided to start the second round. Yun asked Yuan to give her time to take a break. The guy replied that he should hurry up and continue cultivating. Mo girl stood on the balcony listening intently to the conversation between the protagonist and Yun. Then after hearing the conversation, Mo returned to the clan building. The male Gao was very surprised. He questioned Mo. Is it really the guy Yuan started cultivating together with the girl Yun? Mo said sternly to the man that if the protagonist and the girl continued to train, then their plan could be considered a failure. Man Gao replied to the girl that they need to think of something to deal with the protagonist and Yun. The man handed the girl a vial and said it contained a remedy that stops development. Mo should slip it to the guy and the girl at the right moment. Mo asked why interfere with development when you can just poison it. The man replied that such a death would be very painless. Gao said he wants the main character to see his son and Yun's girlfriend get married. After a little thought, the girl Mo completely agreed with what she heard from the man. After a couple days, the main character continued cultivating with the girl. Yun told the guy that they needed to take a break, but added that he should have already reached the 6th level in the 6 Sun snow melting technique. The girl looked at the protagonist and noticed that he had changed a lot. Yuan looked over and noticed that his hair had turned white for some reason. Yun remembered that her father said that when a person reaches the 6th level, their appearance can change. The main character looked at the girl and asked cheerfully if she liked him. Yun replied sharply to the guy that she had never confessed her love to him. Suddenly there was a knock on the door. Mo girl asked if the protagonist and Yun were inside. Yun shouted very excitedly to the guy to hurry up and get dressed. The protagonists wondered why Mo was here now. Yun asked excitedly to the MO girl why she had come now. Mo calmly replied that she had brought chicken soup in her hands. She was holding a tray. Mo put the tray on the table. She said that she had brought food for the boy and the girl because they needed to replenish their strength. Suddenly, Mo saw the main character. She told him that he had changed a lot in a couple of days. Yun thanked the girl for her concern and said that the food had a good aroma. Mo said the soup was made with black chicken. She suggested we eat it quickly before it got cold. The main character said that he and his girlfriend couldn't drink the soup because it might be poisonous. Mo told the protagonist that he hated her. She asked why she should frame Yuan and Yun. The protagonist told the Mo girl that no matter how she played it, the truth is that she was the one who attacked him and Yun. Mo told the protagonist that there was no wound on her chest and he saw for himself. Yun said with surprise to the guy that Mo had been with her since she was a little girl and couldn't hurt her. The main character said that the Mo girl really didn't have any wounds. She hid them somehow, but her words gave her away. The guy said the girl was talking to the wound. How would the girl know where the attack was directed? Mo got excited. She remembered everything she told the protagonist and Yun about. After a short pause, Mo replied that she was only talking about her assumptions. The guy can't accuse her based only on her words. Yuan told the girl that if she was innocent, let her drink a bowl of soup and then he would believe her. The girl thought if she didn't drink it, she'd be suspected. There's a power-dissipating drug in the soup anyway, so she could fool the guy and the girl. Then Mo said very firmly and confidently that she would have a drink. Immediately, the Mo girl took the bowl and immediately drank all its contents. Mo looked closely at the protagonist and asked if he was sure she could be trusted. The protagonist was surprised that the girl could drink the soup. He thought she might have prepared an antidote beforehand. At the same time, Yun drank her portion of soup. She said happily that the Mo girl cooks better and better every time. The main character was very frightened. He asked the Yun girl why she drank. Yun said for Yuan to stop doubting people and start drinking. Suddenly, the Yun girl felt sick. Her body felt feverish and dizzy. At the same time, the Mo girl got sick. She dropped her bowl on the floor. Mo was surprised because Gao Shun had lied to her about the drug. She realized that the drug was not designed to disperse strength. At the same time, a man named Gao Shun was in his clan's building. Gao Shun said that the effects of the drug should show up. A man would burn in the first 5 minutes after taking the drug. A woman after taking the drug will burn everything around her to get what she wants from a man. Gao told his son that he would fulfill his dream of getting the girl Yun Shuihan. The man said the girl ruined his son, so she should pay for everything. The man added that the effect of the divine pill is very great, but a guide is needed and it can be the heart of a loved one. The father told his son that he had become useless. He added that he would help him free himself, and it was time to welcome the new heir to the Gao family. Suddenly, father felt a very strong blow in the back. He was surprised. The man realized that he had been attacked with a poisonous awl. He couldn't understand how his son Gan could do such a thing. The Gao guy told his father that he pretended to be stupid and crazy for a long time to learn more about the pill. The father told his son that he need not be so impulsive and should be kinder to his father. The boy replied that only a divine pill could restore his strength. The guy yelled that the father was vicious and should not be treated with respect. A father yelled at his son at the last moment to stop. At the same time, there were 2 girls sitting in the room next to the protagonist. The 2 girls, Yun and Mo, were sitting next to each other. They felt hot. Yuan saw that the same situation as during the battle with Gao was repeating itself. The guy remembered that Gao Gan was now a handicapped man without an arm, so someone else must be hiding behind the scenes. The 2 girls approached the guy. He shamefully told them to wait. The Yun girl said dreamily to the protagonist that cultivation was not yet complete. Mo told the guy firmly that it was all her fault and to save her. The main character told the girls that 2 against 1 wouldn't be fair. He suggested they try one at a time. Yuan shouted to the girl Yun to stop at the same time the 2 girlfriends undressed. The girls looked at the protagonist and told him not to expect anything. Saving people is very important. The guy's experience of limitless magic increased. The main character stayed in his room on the bed with the girls. Both girls lay close to the protagonist he felt good about. Yuan gradually lost his sense of awkwardness and bashfulness next to the girls on the bed. Yuan grabbed the Yun girl's palm and yelled for her to come back. The system gave a message to the guy that he had increased his unlimited magic skill to rank 4. He also received an additional skill called Mesmerizing Mirage. The main character was lying on his bedsheet surrounded by girls. The system gave the guy the details of the skill Mesmerizing Mirage. The higher the charm of the holder, the higher the probability of success, the Yun girl said happily and a little embarrassed that the poison was finally completely eliminated. The Mo girl told the main character that he must have had a hard time. The exhausted guy lay on the bed and said in a low voice that he was going to die. The Mo girl thought for a moment. She was surprised that the main character had helped her even after all she had done. Yuan said the only person to thank is the Shuihan girl. Mo said that she was very jealous of the Yun girl. As a result, Gao Yun persuaded her to become his assistant. Mo added that she was willing to accept any punishment. Yun told Mo's girlfriend that she's ready if she wants to change. Mo pinched the guy's breasts and told him he could mercilessly abuse her for days on end as punishment. Yun then angrily yelled that it didn't sound like punishment at all. Mo calmed down and said it was no time for jokes. The girl said that Gao Xiong is perfecting the divine pill for his revenge plan. They need to stop him. The protagonist was thinking. He asked what the divine pill meant. Mo said that the divine pill is the clan's forbidden drug. It increases the user's development, and after that, the person starts to lose control of himself. That's why the drug was banned. Yuan said that Yun's girlfriend was tired and needed to rest, so he's going to take her to the Gao family and settle the score with them. Yun stopped the protagonist and told him to take the blade. This weapon was a relic of the clan called the Snow Assassin. The blade could only be wielded by a person with the highest level of technique. Yuan took the weapon in his hands and said it was a wonderful blade. The system reported that the blade can be used to perform fire attacks. Mo said that the Snow Assassin's blade has a lot of masculine energy inside, so it can't be used by women. The weapon was always passed on to future husbands. Mo suggested that the Yun girl had decided to get married. A little shy and embarrassed, the Yun girl said that she had given the guy the blade for a while. Suddenly, the main character looked up and told everyone to be careful as they were being attacked by a powerful spirit. When the protagonist saw the ceiling of the building shatter into pieces, just in time for Yuan to put a protective blue dome over himself. The magic dome was able to save the protagonist and his girls from the wreckage. Yuan looked up and saw angrily that Gao was there. The guy Gao was standing on the roof of a building. Immediately, Gao said menacingly that he was looking all over for the main character and the girls. Yun yelled that Gao's arm had been chopped off, and he wouldn't be able to fight in any way. Gao replied that his father had improved the divine pill, but he had to transfer it to the sacrifice. Gao threatened the protagonist that he would pay for everything. Yuan said that evil deeds only lead to self-destruction. He said that Gao would now be reunited with his father, after which the protagonist accelerated to attack. Yuan quickly readied his sword in flight to attack Gao. Already at first, Gao was able to deftly defend himself from the sword strike with his hand. Gao told the protagonist that his power is beyond his imagination. A regular blade can't hurt him. Yuan said that the blade is called the Snow Killer and it contains the power of flame. He asked if nothing would happen if Gao just touched the blade. Gao was very surprised after trying to touch the blade with his hand. Gao couldn't believe his hand was hurt after touching the sword. Yuan prepared to attack again. He said that Gao had his newly grown arm turned into a pig's foot. Then Gao said he can't be harmed because he's immortal. Here at this moment, many flying blades from the sides slammed into Gao's body. A group of girls ran towards the scene of the battle. One of them shouted that they would help the protagonist. Gao was surprised that the girls had decided to help Yuan. He added that garbage will remain garbage no matter how much of it there is. The main character yelled to the girls that they were no match for Gao and to leave. The Mo girl said menacingly that she just wanted to pay for everything. Then Mo commanded the other girls to form a line. Gao was a little scared because the girls of the clan were already able to learn this formation. The group of girls prepared to attack Gao with a demonic rain of blades. A group of girls simultaneously launched their blades to strike the Gao. After that, the blades flying from the girls hit Gao's body very hard. After the successful attack, Gao felt as if he was losing his life energy. The girls in the clan were very happy that they had succeeded. The suddenly badly injured Gao was able to perk up and laughed softly. Gao said that his immortal body is tougher than he thought. Now he's sure nothing can hurt him. The guy yelled that he was giving the girls back their weapons. Blades flew away from him. The girls were afraid they weren't ready for their blades to fly back. The Emo girl turned to the clan girls in a very scared and concerned manner. All of a sudden, Gao was able to quickly run up and grab Mo by the throat. Gao told the Emo girl that he was giving her one last chance. He promised to make her an elder if she obeyed him. Mo replied to Gao that he was nothing compared to the protagonist. She added that she would rather be Yuan's concubine than an elder under Gao's leadership. Gao shouted angrily to the girl that he would finish her off first and then send Yuan to the afterlife. At the same time the main character flew into the air, he struck Gao with his sword. Yun girl flew into the air and grabbed Mo. She shouted to the protagonist to take care of himself. Gao threatened the protagonist that he would humiliate him in front of the girls and show him what real power looks like. The system gave the guy a message that he'd get 2,000 points for defeating Gao Gan. Yuan shouted that Gao never realized why girls liked him. The protagonist shouted that strength is in attraction, and he attacked with the sword Gao. The sharp stab of the protagonist's blade really hurt and wounded Gao. Gao angrily shouted to the protagonist that normal attacks wouldn't work on him. Yuan asked wonderingly of his rival if he was really sure of his words. Gao looked at himself and saw that his wound did not heal, and even on the contrary, he did not understand what was wrong. Yuan said that thanks to the snow assassin's blade, the technique penetrates Gao's body, and his blood starts to boil. The protagonist said he wanted to see if Gao would be healed or if his body would be burned. After that, the protagonist continued to strike his opponent with cloud swordsmanship. Gao's injuries were so severe that he couldn't recover. After that, Gao felt as if his body was completely on fire. Then the burning body of the Gao began to fall from the sky to the earth. Then the protagonist landed on the ground after finishing off the Gao. Yuan said that unkind deeds lead to self-destruction, and the fire of karma will burn Gao as he deserved the punishment. Yun's girlfriend ran up to the main character and asked if he was okay. Yuan gestured to the girl that he was fine and not to worry. The Yun girl excitedly shouted for the protagonist to pay attention back. Then the protagonist was surprised to see the burning body of the Gao guy standing behind him. Burning Gao said that the flame that burns him and the body that regenerates are one. Now he can even use this unquenchable flame. The protagonist sped up and yelled for Gao to stop fooling him. Gao also accelerated and prepared to attack the protagonist in response. In flight, Gao was able to hit the protagonist with all his might with fire. Then already the Yuan fell from the height to the ground and began to fly off to the side. Yun asked the main character how his condition is. Mo said Gao has become a real monster. Burning Gao asked the Yuan girl why she keeps protecting the protagonist. He said Yuan is like a stray dog. The protagonist began to rise from the earth. He realized how to defeat the Gao now. Yuan decided to start using a magic skill called Mesmerizing Mirage. The burning Gao shouted menacingly to the protagonist that his attacks wouldn't work. Suddenly, something very much caught the flaming Gao's attention. Gao saw as if the main character next to the Yun girl on the bed. Gao continued to watch the Yuan guy being in an embrace together with the Yun girl. Burning Gao got angry. He shouted to the protagonist that the Yun girl belongs to him and he can't touch her. The protagonist looked at Gao and asked who was in front of him. The girl said that she was fed up with Gao because he was always bothering her. Burning Gao was very angry about what he saw and heard. Yun's girlfriend tells the protagonist to ignore Gao because they need privacy. The main character told Gao to watch his favorite girl having fun with someone else. Burning Gao got very angry. He shouted that he didn't want to see this. In the end, Gao decided not to look. If he didn't have eyes, he wouldn't see anything. Immediately, the Gao guy's strength completely left him and he collapsed to the ground. The system told the guy that he was rewarded with 2,000 points. Burning Gao shouted that he had no vision, but he could still see. He never wanted to see anything like that again. Yuan said that Gao started destroying himself because of some illusion. Yun girl asked with surprise what happened to Gao Gan and why his body and eyesight could not regenerate. The main character said that Gao didn't restore his sight on purpose. Because of the illusion charms, Gao was afraid that he might see the same thing in reality. Yun asked with great excitement to the protagonist what was in the illusions. The lying Gao asked the Yun girl in a weak voice how she could lick such places. He asked her to finish him off. The main character told the girl to wait a while and listen to him. Yun angrily attacked Yuan. 3 days later, the protagonist, along with the clan leader and the Yun girl, checked on Gao in the dungeon. The chained Gao kept repeating to himself exhaustedly that he didn't want to watch. The clan leader said that he did not expect the son and father to be able to commit such great crimes. He added that Gao will remain in prison. The clan leader told the protagonist that he has the right to do as he pleases. He should take care of the clan and his daughter Yun now. Suddenly, the Yun girl shouted that there was no need to take care of her. Yuan said he still has a lot to do tomorrow. He'll have to leave the clan. Yuan can take over as head. The girl was very surprised and worried that the main character was leaving. Yuan said he had something else to do. He apologized to Yun. Yun's girlfriend told the protagonist that she understands, and he can do whatever he wants. Yuan said that he would go back to the room and pack up his things, and then he would say goodbye to everyone. The clan head called out to the protagonist. The head said that Yuan is an apprentice of the clan, and he may have his own affairs, so he will let him go, but only on one condition. The clan leader came at the protagonist from behind and said he'd beat him before he left. Late at night, the Yun girl in the clan building decided to say goodbye to her boyfriend. Yun walked to the door of the protagonist's room and hesitated to enter. Yun heard the main character in the room talking to some girl. The conversation heard from behind the door excited and interested Yun very much. Suddenly, Yun burst into the room and yelled for the guy and girl to stop. The protagonist, along with his girlfriend, looked at the Yun, who entered with surprise. And then the guy and the girls sat down to drink and socialize. The Mo girl said cheerfully that she would never have guessed that Yun would think of such a thing. Yun said it's no wonder she thought that after what she heard from behind the door. The main character told the girls he was giving a toast because he was leaving tomorrow. Mo asked the protagonist with interest if the wine had gone to his head. Yuan said he felt something unusual after the wine. Mo girl said she took some acacia residue from the alchemy room and put some in the main character's wine. Mo turned to the Yun girl and told her that the brief moment of lover's night is priceless. Yun asked if it would be okay. Mo said they have a lot of unfinished business and no time to rest. Mo girl said that if the main character's body remembers Yun, he will definitely come back to her. Yun girl said sadly to herself so that the protagonist would forget her. The protagonist received a message about doubling the experience of limitless magic. The girl at this time was kneading her hands as a result for the guy's experience of boundless magic doubled again. A character card named Yun Shuihan was unlocked for Yuan. After that, the Mo Ning Shuang card was unlocked for the guy. The guy got a skill called Ice Soul Palm. The next morning, the girls woke up on the main character's bed. Then the Mo girl opened her eyes and called the guy's name to her. Yun girl said in a sad voice that the main character had already left. Mo told her friend not to be sad and one day fate would reconnect them. While the protagonist was looking at his girlfriends in the system at the time, the fairy asked the boy if he felt sorry for abandoning his girlfriends and felt guilty. The fairy then added that Yuan would have many breakups in the future. The guy said he's a strategist and no one can win his heart. The fairy said that Yuan must have been in the dungeon to get a lot of points. She suggested him to try out the new features of the system. The guy asked what other functions the system could have. The fairy said he could use the glasses to turn the divine space into his own paradise. The main character told the fairy that he would not waste his precious points on these useless things. The fairy replied that things are not useless. The fairy explained that with the points in the forge, you can make equipment, and in the spiritual field, you can sow magic grass and fruits, which gives a great advantage. The guy said that the fairy wants him to spend his points on improving his surroundings. Yuan looked at his system and decided to spend the points on the forge. In the first level forge, the quality improves with the level. In a special alchemy workshop, all medicines are produced regularly. The protagonist created a virtual terrain and asked the fairy how she liked the new look. The fairy sent Yuan an air kiss and said that now it wouldn't be so boring. The guy said the blacksmith shop and the alchemy shop are unstaffed. He now needs to automate production. The fairy told a very cheerful guy that she'll figure it out all by herself. Then the fairy showed the protagonist special puppets that would work in the divine space. The protagonist asked excitedly to the fairy when the next mission would begin. The fairy replied to the guy that a new mission could be launched at any time. Yuan asked if he could stay in space and slowly jump around his level and then go to the dungeon. The fairy said that the guy wanted to use the bug. The fairy added that if in other spaces time would go on as normal, it would be problematic to attack. The guy asked why he couldn't remarry and if the fairy doubted his abilities. The fairy replied that married people cannot be attacked and inactive people cannot be married. Yuan said he would rest for a couple more days and then go to the dungeon. The protagonist looked at the cards of the girls he knew and thought it would be great if they were in this place. The guy wondered how on earth he could use character cards. With that said, Yuan decided to try the character card himself for starters. Immediately, the guy pressed the card, and the magical transformation began. Very quickly, two of his girlfriends and another girl appeared next to the protagonist. Then the girl asked the protagonist with fright what had happened. Yun sternly demanded of the guy to explain what was going on, and who this new girl was. The girl decided things were heating up. The protagonist offered to take tea with the girls who showed up. Then all three girls looked at the guy silently and attentively. The 37th guy asked the fairy how girls could get into the divine space. The fairy answered that if a guy uses a character card, the person is teleported here. Yuan said he thought the cards were some kind of bonus. Yun's girlfriend demanded strictly from the protagonist to explain what it all meant. Yuan said there was no point in hiding anything anymore. He wanted to say who his true identity was. Then the main character told the girls he was a celestial. Yuan reported that he had violated the heavenly laws and suffered punishment. He must experience 100 love calamities. Young girl grabbed the main character and asked him if that was the reason he was so kind to everyone. The fairy thought sadly that the protagonist had come up with a silly reason. Yuan said that the surrounding space he created with his divine power and the fairy is his handmaiden. The protagonist tells the fairy that he just spent a bunch of points to improve this place and he's not asking her for much. Mo girl said she believes the main character, if the guy wasn't immortal, he wouldn't have such beauty and skills. After that, Mo suggested that the other girls live with the main character. The fairy suggested to the girls that they take special spiritual rings that would help them travel between worlds. Yun said that she didn't need to see Yuan since she was the head of the clan and was very busy. The Mo girl took the ring. She wondered if she could go straight to the main character's room. Yun yelled that Mo's girlfriend is very rude. Mo reminded her that Yun is very busy. Late at night, a Feng girl sat by the pond and thought of her own. Feng has been thinking for a long time about how many secrets the protagonist is hiding. A guy showed up and happily said he'd finally found a fangirl. Feng asked wonderingly of the lad why he did not stay with the beauties, but went to find her. Yuan said he had never imagined that the moment of reunion with Feng would come. He asked the girl what happened to her after she left by Wallow. The girl said that she had traveled all over the world and wanted to be a musician. She did not expect to meet such an unusual person. Feng said that her friend was good at playing musical instruments and had taught her how to use them to enter the Tao. The guy asked the girl if she was still traveling and what she was playing at. Feng replied that she played a jade flute. She was trained to play a special song that infused the music with frenzied energy and clouded the mind. The main character demanded the girl to show how to play. The fan replied that her song drives people crazy and she can't use it. The protagonist replied to the girl that she had just started cultivating, so she wouldn't be able to influence his mind. Fan told the guy not to look down on her. She promised she'd show him how to play. After that, the girl took out her jade flute and began to play. The protagonist began to listen to the music and was completely moved by it. Feng told the guy that the melody didn't seem to have any effect on him. She decided that her cultivation level was low. The girl asked Yuan in surprise what he was doing. The guy pounced on the girl at that time. The guy said the fan's tune really moved him and he can't help it. The girl told the guy he was lying and asked him if he was sane. The guy asked the girl to play the tune again. The girl continued to play, and the guy's experience of limitless magic increased. 3 days later, the magic puppets were in full force at all the main characters' sites. Yuan looked around contentedly and decided it was time for him to go. The guy asked the fairy to give him another way to get around. He doesn't want to end up in the bathroom again. The fairy said that the landing place and personality is chosen randomly, but she has no influence and can only wish good luck. The protagonist yelled to the fairy at the last moment to wait. Yuan found himself in the world of Gaia in the city of Croesus. He appeared in a dungeon at a slave auction. The protagonist woke up and looked around very carefully. The protagonist felt his appearance change and got animal ears. Yuan marveled. He looked in all directions of the chamber where he found himself. The guy saw that around him were sitting frightened girls who had animal ears. One of the girls asked the protagonist apprehensively if he was okay. Yuan grabbed the girl's ears and noticed that they were realistically soft and warm. The girl asked the guy not to touch her ears because they're very sensitive. The protagonist asked the girls in wonder if they had real ears. Then they weren't human. One girl said they were half humans being sold as slaves. Another girl told the guy that he was a demon and that he was lower in rank than a human. The continent of Gaia is a very prosperous country. Here live together people half humans and demons. All of them contribute to the development of the state. 500 years ago, there was a war between humans and demons. After heavy losses, humans were able to win thanks to the Church of Divine Light. As a result, humans became the masters of the continent, and demons became the lowest race. And eventually, demons were completely suppressed, becoming commodities for humans. The protagonist asked the girl how she could have gotten here if she wasn't a demon. The girl said that half humans are enslaved because of a crime called not having a residence permit. The girl said her name was Ali. She belongs to a tribe of foxes who live far away in the mountains and were captured by a group of mercenaries. Afterward, Ali told me that you came here for the same reason she did. The protagonist asked why then he was kidnapped if he was a man. The girl said the guy was a succubus. They even say that men have more charm than women. For this reason, the price of succubus men is very high. It is not uncommon for rich women to buy such men for fun. The protagonist, on second thought, decided that she wouldn't be too upset if some rich lady got her hands on him. A girl told a guy not to be naive. Often ladies can be perverts and men who are bought well do not end up. Also, the protagonist can be bought by another man. Yuan realistically pictured himself as a slave to some man. The protagonist asked if human trafficking was a legitimate business. Ailey's girlfriend reported that all previous laws were mere formalities. The guy firmly told the girls he understood so they wouldn't worry. The main character told the girls confidently that he would get them all out. The guy got points from the system for successful seduction. The girls looked at the guy in disbelief, and Ali asked if he really knew how to get them out of here. Yuan noticed the girl Qiao Wei trying to chew through the prison fence. He asked her fearfully what she was doing. Qiao Wei said, if they're going to run away, she's ready to fight. The protagonist told the girls that they were not yet familiar enough with their surroundings to make an escape. Yuan added that he had already figured out how they could escape. In a very large room, there was an auction of half-humans. The potential buyers were talking amongst themselves. One of the women said that there must be a lot of good merchandise today. Immediately, the auctioneer said he wanted to introduce the 7th item. For clients was a Cat Clan girl of 18 years of age. Clients liked this lot very much. The price quickly jumped to 6 million. A client said he'd pay 9 million for a cat girl. The auctioneer said the item was sold to a client for 9 million. From now on, the kitten girl belongs to the buyer. The buyer took the girl's hand and told her to go with him and he'd take care of her. Immediately, the girl started lashing out and even bit her customer. The girl kitten started running away. She screamed that she didn't want to be a toy and wanted to go home. The auctioneer looked at the fleeing girl and said she was stupid. Then the auctioneer pressed a small button in the table. After the button was pressed, the collar on the girl was put into action. There was a very big explosion, and the girl kitten was blown to pieces. The client said indignantly as some slave girl dared to hurt a man. From behind the scenes, the main character was watching what was happening carefully and fearfully. Yuan asked sadly why the kitten girl was killed since there were other ways to control it. Ali said sadly that slaves who harmed people are like dogs that bite a human being. Such slaves are killed, and it is a kind of rule. Yuan said that although this was a game, he could not remain indifferent. The auctioneer apologized to the guests for what had happened. He said that he would now present the item that was the main event of the evening. The auctioneer said he's offering customers the chance to buy a male succubus, of which there are very few. The curtain opened, and the auctioneer said the starting bid for him would be 10 million. The auctioneer asked the customers if anyone could afford it. The protagonist started getting points for successful seduction. The customers looked at the main character with delight and wanted to have him. The protagonist told the customers that if anyone wanted to buy him, they should take the 4 slave girls behind the curtain along with him. The auctioneer called Yuan a pathetic slave. The protagonist yelled for the auctioneer to shut up. The auctioneer ended up very surprised. He even stopped talking. Then Yuan told the auctioneer that he wasn't the boss. The protagonist told the clients that he was going to serve them well. At the same moment, he activated the sensual charm technique. Eventually, one of the clients said the succubus charmed her with one look. The girl said she wants the main character even if she goes bankrupt. Customers began to haggle. The price of Yuan reached 85 million. One client said judiciously that people are crazy about a certain product. The client stood up and said he was paying 150 million. He added that he realized today that he liked men. Then one client, number 69, said she was paying 500 million. Right away, the customer said she didn't want to waste her time shopping. The girls in the audience were very surprised. They could not imagine who could pay 500 million for the main character. The auctioneer told a customer named Kei Jur that she got herself a succubus and 4 slave girls. Yuan thought to himself that he was probably out of luck this time. The girl looked at the protagonist carefully and said that she had finally found a suitable candidate. Then the buyer brought the protagonist into her huge house. The maid told Yuan to take a shower and change his clothes, and he could choose any clothes he wanted. The protagonist promised that he would please his mistress. He asked the maid to tell him more about Madame Kaouye. The guy got 120 points for seduction. The maid said shyly that her mistress was very strong. Yuan told the maid confidently that he could charm any girl. After that, right off the bat, the main character went and changed his clothes. Yuan saw his mistress and thought she was addicted to games. He figured she hadn't wasted 500 million. The protagonist noticed the mistress approaching him dressed in a seductive outfit. The guy told the mistress that she finally came to him. He added that he belonged to her alone today. The girl examined the protagonist with great romantic interest. Yuan told the mistress to follow through if she wanted something. Mistress put the boy on the bed and told him he was a big rascal. After that, the girl added a response to the guy that she liked it. Mistress sits on top of the protagonist. The guy tells her it's a long night and they can talk about life and ideals. At the same time, the girl handcuffed the guy. He was very surprised. Mistress told the guy that she would be with him until the very end. Yuan was chained to the bed. The girl looked at the guy and said they could talk business. Yuan wondered very much if he and Ka weren't doing it right now. The girl told the guy she didn't buy such an expensive toy for satisfaction. It was after that that the lady decided to tell us who she really was. The girl told the guy that she's a succubus just like him. The Yuan was surprised. He asked the girl if she had bought him to be her stallion. The protagonist imagines a bunch of beautiful girls walking around him and everyone wants to be with him. The girl told the guy that he wouldn't have any rest today until he completed his assignment. The lady told me that she is a subordinate of the Demon King who was sealed a couple hundred years ago, during which time she's looking to break the seal. Since the outbreak of war by the Church of the Divine Light, an organization called the 7 Sages of Multiple Light has appeared. This organization sealed the Demon Lord in a special hammer. The mistress said that since then, the demon's heart is sealed in the hammer. No one can destroy it. The girl told the guy he had to break the seal on the Demon Lord's heart so she could resurrect him. Yuan said the demon dies as soon as it touches the hammer. The mistress said she found a method to break the seal that only the protagonist can do. The girl said that among the 7 sages of divine light there was their successor named Irina. Madam said if they get rid of Irina, the seal will be broken. If she fell in love with Yuan willingly and gave herself to him, the demon's heart would be released. The main character said he was rejecting. The mistress didn't like the guy rejecting her. Yuan said confidently that he did not consent to the innocent maiden, and so refused. Mrs. pulled out a knife and said she didn't ask the guy's opinion on the matter. The protagonist got scared and he told the mistress that they had something to discuss. The mistress told the boy that if you cut off his magical source and transplant it to someone else, you could accomplish the mission without him. She added that she was skilled with a knife. The girl looked at the guy angrily and raised the knife and told him to say goodbye. Yuan shouted to start activating the skill called King Kong. The mistress could not strike with her knife because it broke. The girl looked carefully and thought that perhaps she was seeing the legendary Golden Colossus. The protagonist felt good about himself. He made a timely trade for the body of a King Kong. The system reported that due to the King Kong body skill, the body change begins. Yuan's physical strength increased dramatically as he ripped the handcuffs off. Mistress was surprised. She realized that the guy wasn't using succubus magic. The main character looked at the girl and said he was a very powerful succubus. Yuan said that the chains would not be enough to capture him. He thought to himself that Mrs. Ka was a 5-star character, and he would have to try his best to defeat her. The girl calmly told the guy that she hadn't wasted her 500 million if he ran away. The 4 slave girls wouldn't be happy. Yuan said he can do anything as long as it doesn't go against his principles. Mistress looked at the guy and told him to give her pleasure. She will see if he is worth 500 million. The protagonist told the mistress that today he would pay her back the 500 million with interest. Mrs. Lei said the succubus body is very hardy, but the protagonist is different. She thought there might be a problem. After that, the girl lay down on her stomach. The protagonist turned to Mrs. Kajuye. The girl said that maybe for a moment she lost consciousness. Yuan kissed the mistress. The system reported an increase in boundless magic experience. The mistress looked at the protagonist and said that she had underestimated his abilities. The protagonist and the girl were in his maid's room in the hallway. The girl, Ali, was very much surprised she didn't realize what those sounds were coming from the room. One of the maids said that the main character is inside, and another girl said that maybe the mistress is bullying Yuan. Ali's girlfriend said they should rely on Yuan and nothing bad happened. The next day, the protagonist woke up in Mrs. Ka's mansion. The protagonist pulled back the curtain and looked out into the sunny street. Then already Yuan looked at Mrs. K and wished her a good morning. The girl said it had been a stormy night. She added that there were reasons why succubi didn't copulate as often. Yuan said he didn't expect this was the first time for mistress. She looked at the guy and wondered if he saw her as an experienced girl. The protagonist said that the mistress behaved bravely even though it was the first time for her. The mistress said she planned to give herself to the demon lord from the beginning. The protagonist looked at the girl and said that he would not carry out the resurrection plan. The girl said that a female succubus can use the blood of a virgin to use magic by the names of the pure blood chain. The lady added that if the pure blood chains broke, she and Yuan would die immediately. She threatened that if the boy refused to comply with the request, she would break the chain. The protagonist was surprised that the girl used a dangerous spell just to coerce him. The lady said she'd even sacrifice her life to resurrect the demon lord. The protagonist felt pain after activating the spell. The mistress told the guy that as soon as he helped her, she would reverse the spell and give him a reward. Yuan said he wasn't afraid of dying and could handle himself. He thought he should keep himself alive. Mistress gave the boy the roots of Irina. She added that the rest was up to him. The guy said that while he was on a mission, the mistress should take care of his 4 friends. He hoped that they could also exchange experiences. 3 days later, there was a training session in the deep woods called the Baptism of the Warhammer. The girl Irene was testing her hammer on various small demons. Then Irene used the magic hammer she was armed with. Irene shouted that the mission was accomplished and justice was served. The Tauren must die. The girl shouted, addressing the divine light, that his loyal followers would continue to restore justice. Suddenly, the girl heard someone shouting from the forest thicket, demanding help. Irene was very much surprised. She wanted to go and see what happened. The protagonist was standing around a crowd of demons, and he yelled at them to stay away. A group of demons dispersed and pounced on the protagonist. Yuan shrilled and called out for someone to help him, while a girl named Irene was flying through the sky with a hammer. She shouted to the demons to stop harming people. Irene shouted to those around her to be careful and pounded the hammer into the ground. As she landed, the girl asked, wondering if there were goblins around. Yuan thanked the girl, gave his name, and said he was a priest from the nearest village church. The girl gave her name, said she was a holy knight from the Church of Divine Light. She added that it was dangerous for a priest to walk alone. The protagonist said that the goblins had infiltrated the village and taken one of the villagers, so he went himself. Irene asked the guy whether the kidnapped girl was his friend or his lover. The guy replied that they were just from the same village. The girl asked with interest why the priest had gone in search of a stranger. Yuan said that he too believed in the divine light. He added confidently that for the sake of justice, he was willing to sacrifice his life. Irene looked at the boy in surprise. She felt her heart beating faster. The girl took the guy's hand in hers and told him to lean on it. Irene suggested to the protagonist that they together exterminate the goblins. The guy thanked and blessed the girl. The boy thought to himself that if he showed kindness, he could earn the girl's favor. Irene said that she couldn't wait any longer. She offered to go in search of the goblin lair and the unfortunate girl. The girl pounded her hammer into the ground and activated a spell called Evil Detection. The protagonist asked Irene what she was doing. The girl replied that with this spell it would be possible to find the location of the demons. Irene pointed to the side and said that the dark aura coming from there might be the location of a goblin lair. The girl turned to the guy and suggested he go and fight the monsters. Irene turned to the main character and asked where he got the dark aura on him from. The guy was scared. He didn't know what he could say to the girl now. Irene said excitedly that when Yuan was surrounded by goblins, he could soak in their demonic energy. The protagonist happily told the girl that it was just like that. The guy asked the girl if she would suspect him. Irene said that demons cannot be followers of divine light. A couple years ago, a girl was in a demon hunt, a group of knights searching the township for demons. Irene noticed a couple demons hiding in the corner, telling her to stay away from them. The girl stared at the two goblins for a long time in indecision and didn't know what to do. The knight told the girl that she had done a good job. He added that he wanted to check the area. Irene replied that she found two goblins and killed them immediately. The girl protected the two small goblins with a special spell. Irene told the goblins that a divine light barrier would help hide their demonic nature. But they need to hide. The girl was walking with the protagonist through the cave. She activated the divine ball of light. Irene wondered why it was so hot. Yuan said that goblins like to settle in warm places. Volcanic mine increases the temperature inside the girl is hot, because she is wearing armor. The girl decided to take off her clothes a little. The protagonist looked at her with surprise. Irene took off all her armor. Yuan shouted to her that there must be some decency. The girl looked at the protagonist and told him cheerfully that she was much more comfortable that way. The main character said he didn't think the girl would have such a good figure. The girl told the protagonist that she has a trim figure because she works out all the time. The guy said aloud to the girl that he was mesmerized by her beauty and strength to himself. He decided to activate a skill called Devil's Smile. Irene said that time is running out and we need to move forward. The protagonist replied to the girl that she was very hot-tempered. The girl stepped confidently. The protagonist noticed that she stepped on a dangerous place. At the last moment, the guy shouted to the girl to be careful. Suddenly, the ground beneath the girl collapsed and she began to fall. Irene slumped into some sort of pit with pink liquid around her. The girl wondered. She asked with surprise what was so dirty and nasty around her. The main character yelled to the girl to get up soon as there was acid around her mucus. The guy yelled to the girl that her body might dissolve. She got really scared. The acid on the girl's body started to ruin her clothes. Immediately, the protagonist grabbed the girl's hand in time to save her. The field of this Yuan shouted to the girl Irene that he could get her out. When the girl was rescued from the pit, she said she could feel the acid eating her skin. Irene then said she was activating the purification of divine light. The girl thought for a moment. She didn't understand why purification didn't remove the acid. The main character said that holy magic doesn't work on the acid well. There's only one way to get rid of the acid. The girl shouted impatiently to the guy to tell her the way. The protagonist stuck his tongue out and told the girl he needed a different microflora. Irene said the guy should spit on her because there's no other way out. The protagonist told the girl he had to use his tongue to cleanse her. The girl told the guy it sounded even weirder, but they could try it. The protagonist took the girl's leg in his hand and looked at her. Irene then asked the guy in surprise what he was doing. The main character said that if he didn't start, her skin would explode. Yuan began to gently lick the girl's leg and said she had to be patient. The guy continued to lick the girl's body. She yelled for him to continue. Then the protagonist continued to cleanse the girl's body further. Irene told the guy to give his armpit area a good scrubbing. For a very long time, the girl was patient and waited for the protagonist to finish. Then a little later, Yuan told the girl to lift her legs. The girl told the guy to be gentle since she'd never been touched before. The main character looked at the girl and said he'd be gentle. Yuan received a message that his experience of limitless magic had increased. The system informed the protagonist that he had gained new skills, nervous tongues, and lovely teeth. The system reported that the Yuan has made its language flexible and irresistible. After an hour, the guy finished the procedure. He gave the girl some of his clothes. Irene thanked the guy. She wanted to talk to him about what had happened. The protagonist told the girl not to worry. He added that he would give up his life to preserve her innocence. Irene told the guy that since he saved her, she couldn't let him die. The protagonist questioned the girl with great care as to what she meant to say. The girl told the guy that they should go looking for him right away. At which time a girl's cry for help came from deep inside the cave. The bound girl asked the goblins not to hurt her. The evil goblins encircled the girl and laughed evilly standing around her. Suddenly there was a heavy thud on the ground. The goblins were startled. The goblin queen appeared and told them angrily that she asked them to capture strong men. They brought a weak girl. The goblin pointed at the full man in the cage. The queen said that strong and fat are different things. She needs good genes for her offspring. The goblin pointed to the caged buffalo the queen said was a creature of the wrong race. Then the goblin pointed to another man in the cage. The queen replied that the man was old and could not procreate. Suddenly the man in the cage jumped up straight and said he was in the prime of life. The queen turned away from the man, saying he shouldn't offer himself to her. Suddenly the queen heard the voices of people coming from far away. The queen was outraged. She could not understand who had dared to break into her lair. Irene saw the Goblin Queen. She said it's no wonder her magic is so strong. The protagonist said he sees missing residents here. The Queen looked very carefully with interest at the protagonist. Looking closely, the Queen realized that there was something unusual about Yuan's appearance. The Queen's special attention was drawn to the handsome and slender body of the lad.